Welcome to Chapter 2, Understanding Evolving Economic Systems and Competition. In this lecture, we're going to cover macroeconomics versus microeconomics, market structure, and the upcoming trends in economics. Economics is simply the study of how a society uses resources to produce and distribute goods and services. The two sub-areas of economics are macroeconomics and microeconomics. When you study macroeconomics, you're looking at factors like inflation, interest rate, the gross domestic product, which is the total market value of all the products and services a country provides. With macroeconomics, you're really looking at the big picture of the economy. This is versus microeconomics. Microeconomics is the study of individual markets. This would be like analyzing the auto industry and Ford Motor Company. Households provide inputs like natural resources, labor, capital, and innovation to businesses, and businesses turn these things into goods and services for consumers who spend their money on these things. The government helps people and businesses by providing things like highways, national defense, court systems, health services, and Social Security. Government spending also helps businesses and government contractors. All of these three constantly affect each other. The government, business, and households are constantly interacting. If the government raises taxes or interest rates, people may be less likely to spend money or buy homes. Less spending may cause businesses to produce less, so unemployment may rise. Just think about yourself and how you fit into this cycle. Are you affected if the government lowers taxes? Does this spur you on to spend more money to buy more goods? That's usually what the government hopes for. Or how about if the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates? Are you more likely to think about buying a home? There are three main macroeconomic goals that countries are always pursuing. One is economic growth. The more a country produces and sells, the higher its standard of living. Full employment. That means that 94 to 96% of the population is working. While 10% unemployment would be considered very high in the United States, that's not so bad for other countries like Ireland or France, whose unemployment is quite high. Another goal is price stability. This means trying to avoid rapid inflation. Alan Greenspan with the Federal Reserve is always trying to keep interest rates in check to avoid overspending and to avoid rapid inflation. The benefits of economic growth probably come to mind fairly quickly. An increased standard of living, increased employment, increased income. This means for the average person, they have a job and they've got lots of money to spend. But can you think of the drawbacks? Well, some of the drawbacks are strain on facilities like roads, hospitals, schools, electricity. A country has to be able to address these issues if it wants to grow. Can you think of countries where they cannot grow economically until they can keep up their facilities? There are a lot of underdeveloped countries where their roads aren't up to standard, where their facilities are substandard. And also countries have to deal with issues like pollution. This is true for the United States as well. The GDP, or gross domestic product, is the measure of a nation's level of business activity and production. The GDP is the total value of all the goods and services produced in a given year. When you hear the term full employment, this means that there's a job for anyone who can and wants to work. Employment goals are measured by the unemployment rate. An unemployment rate of 3 to 4% is usually considered full employment because there's generally always about 4% of the population that's looking for work or can't work. Frictional unemployment refers to workers who are between jobs. They're ready to start another job, or recent college graduates who are looking for work. Cyclical unemployment refers to workers who work in industries that are cyclical in nature. This is where sales can go up and down. For example, the lumber industry is cyclical because sometimes housing sales are really high and lots of new homes get built, so then the lumber industry does really well. Sometimes lots of new cars are bought in a given year, so the automobile industry will do really well. In the early 90s and early in 2000, high-tech companies laid off numerous of workers. So during the early 90s, high-tech industries did really well, and you probably remember how they were just hiring anyone with high-tech skills. But then in the late 90s, early 2000s, Cisco Systems and Motorola laid off numerous people. Cyclical unemployment refers to industries that are either boom or bust quite often. Seasonal unemployment refers to workers that are laid off because of seasonal changes. Just think of Alaska, very common up here. Berry pickers or ski lodge employees are seasonal workers, and so when they're unemployed, it's seasonal unemployment. Structural unemployment refers to a change in the structural makeup of an industry which causes them to let people go. The automobile industry has had a major structural change. As imports have closed many plants, this is the most serious unemployment problem. Because what this means is, for example, Ford Motor Company used to have a lot of jobs where people would have to install parts or assemble different parts of an automobile, and these jobs were changed into automated jobs, or maybe computer systems could take over the job of a person. This is a major structural change within a company, and then they let these employees go. Suddenly an employee who was making $30 an hour at Ford Motor Company has skills that no one else really needs because all the other automobile industries have made the same changes. So what happens is these unemployed workers have to be retrained in a new field, and unfortunately a lot of these workers have been retrained into service-oriented jobs, or jobs that pay them much less money than they're used to. You probably hear about the Federal Reserve raising or lowering interest rates constantly. When growth is too fast, the Federal Reserve may raise interest rates to prevent inflation and try and slow down the economy. This may seem an odd thing to do. Why would you want to prevent any kind of growth, even if it is really fast? Well, because unfortunately there's a negative side to economic growth that happens too quickly. An analogy is like a ship that's coming in too quickly to shore. If it's coming in really fast, it's going to crash, right? Raising interest rates is like slowing that ship before it runs itself aground. Because what are some of the things that happens when economic growth is too fast? Well, one of the things is that unemployment becomes very low and businesses start to struggle in order to find lots of employees to produce lots of goods. So then they have to pay their employees more money in order to find good employees, and then high salaries generally mean higher prices of goods, right? So that means inflation. The prices of goods will go up. This means not only will consumers probably not buy as many goods or services, this also means that foreign countries won't be able to afford our goods. In 2001 and 2002, George W. Bush and Alan Greenspan were afraid of the recession. We had a short-lived recession, and so Alan Greenspan lowered interest rates. This was to spur growth. This was to encourage people to buy homes and spend money.